I heard the door unlock at 10:03 p.m. A soft click, a pause, then her footsteps, slow, almost rehearsed. I didn't look up from my plate. The food was cold, but I kept eating, methodically, as if chewing could keep my sanity from slipping. She dropped her bag. Let silence stretch. And then she walked into the kitchen with that smirk, the kind that isn't happiness, but triumph. "You know what happened?" she asked. I didn't ask. My fork scraped against the plate, steady, controlled. I had a one-night stand, a laugh, light, careless, deadly, and I'd do it again. The words didn't hit me like bullets. No, bullets are merciful, quick. Her words were something slower, like ice spreading through my veins, claiming territory inch by inch. I didn't flinch, didn't slam a fist, didn't shout. I simply nodded once, set the fork down, and finished my last bite. She waited for a reaction, some explosion, some begging, something to confirm she still had power over the world we shared. But I gave her nothing. Her smirk faded. That was the first crack. When she finally walked past me and disappeared into the bedroom, I stared at the faint reflection of myself in the kitchen window, a still shadow, a man who had just watched the ground beneath him open and chose not to fall. My calls, my messages, her silence all day, it all made sense now. And yet, my hands remained steady, because something colder had awakened in me, something that didn't break, something that planned. People think betrayal arrives with shouting, smashed glasses, the collapse of a home. They're wrong. It arrives quietly, like her ignoring my calls from noon until night, like the vague excuse she'd surely prepared but never used, because she decided to skip the lie entirely and go straight for the cruelty. A one-night stand, and I'd do it again. The line replayed in my head long after she fell asleep. I lay beside her, listening to her breathe, the scent of unfamiliar cologne still faint on her clothes. There were details, the slightly smeared lipstick, the hair she'd tied differently, the red marks she hadn't checked for, the confidence of someone who thought she had won before the game even began. But the worst part wasn't the cheating, it was the delight, the pride, as if hurting me validated something inside her. I considered all the questions a betrayed man asks. Why? With whom? How long? But they felt unnecessary. Something deeper settled into me, a realization that this moment wasn't the beginning. It was the reveal of something that had been happening underneath my life, beneath every good morning kiss and every shared meal. Something had been dying quietly, and tonight she simply told me its name. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not because of shock, but because I felt an eerie calm. What she mistook for emotional paralysis was something entirely different: calculation. She thought she'd shattered me. She hadn't even touched the surface. The next morning she woke up expecting coffee in bed. That was my routine, my ritual. But routines die the moment trust does. She called my name twice. No answer. I sat in the living room with my laptop open, scrolling through the logs I'd quietly kept over the last few weeks. The late returns, the sudden phone face-downs, the meeting ran long texts sent at impossible hours. I hadn't suspected infidelity then, not fully, just something off, something drifting. Now it all had clarity, like frost melting from glass. When she walked out confused, wrapped in a blanket and guilt she was trying to hide beneath a yawn, I simply said, "There's coffee in the kitchen, cold, unpoured, waiting for no one." She frowned but didn't press. I waited until she stepped into the shower, then quietly picked up her phone from the nightstand. Her biggest mistake was assuming I'd lost the will to think. She had changed her password last week, but she forgot something. Patterns remain even when codes change. 4 tries. Unlocked. A series of messages. A name saved as Mira, but no one sends those kinds of messages to a woman. Screenshots, dates, locations, everything she thought she'd hidden. I forwarded the entire thread to myself. Delete sent, delete received. Then I placed the phone exactly as I'd found it. In the following hours, I went deeper. Bank statements, shared cloud storage, hotel receipts buried under business expenses. Each revelation was a thread I pulled, and her entire web began to unravel. I didn't confront, didn't accuse, didn't ask. I moved through the day silent, precise, watching her squirm internally as she tried to read my expression and failed every time. By evening, I had enough proof, enough clarity, enough quiet rage to sharpen into something surgical. The results came in at 7:42 p.m. The private investigator I contacted earlier sent everything: photos, timestamps, names, descriptions. Her one-night stand wasn't one night at all. 3 months, multiple locations, same man. The finale last night was simply the moment she decided to humiliate me instead of hide it. I printed the file, not all of it, just the essentials. Enough to destroy, not enough to drown. When she walked into the living room, towel on her head, phone in hand, practicing innocence too late, I slid the envelope across the coffee table. "What's this?" she asked. A simple, calm sentence. "Open it." She did. Her face changed first in the eyes. That's where guilt always blooms. They widened, then tightened, then darted up at me as if searching for mercy. I had none. "You were supposed to never find out," she whispered. "I know," I said. Simple words. But they hollowed her. She broke first. Tears, excuses, the classic loop of someone who thought they'd always be forgiven. But forgiveness requires feeling, and I was long past that. "I can explain," she stuttered. "No," I said, "you can't." I stood, walked to the kitchen, and took something from the counter. Her luggage, already packed, clothes, documents, everything necessary. Her mouth fell open. "When did you?" "This afternoon." "You're sending me away?" "No," I replied. "I'm letting you go where you've already been going." She stepped toward me, shaking. "Please, don't do this. We can talk." "We talked last night," I said, "when you told me what you did, when you told me you'd do it again. That was your version of ending this." She froze. The realization hit her slowly, painfully. "This isn't revenge," I added. "It's release." Her knees weakened. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "You don't get to touch me anymore." Those words were the real blade. I opened the door, placed her luggage outside, then looked at her one last time. The woman who once shared my life, my bed, my trust. And in the calmest voice I had left, I said, "You ended us before you even walked through that door last night. I'm just giving your ending its final line." She cried, begged, whispered apologies that felt borrowed, not born. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Sometimes the cleanest revenge is simply removing yourself from the place someone thought you were trapped. When she finally stepped outside, still pleading, still hoping for the version of me that existed yesterday, I closed the door slowly. No slam, no theatrics, just finality. I stood in the quiet house, breathing evenly, feeling something unusual. A lightness. Not joy, not victory, just release. People think heartbreak destroys you, but sometimes it frees you. And as the last sound of her footsteps vanished down the hallway, I realized something that settled cold and true inside me. She expected anger, she expected pain, but she never expected silence. And silence was the thing that broke her most.